So Princess Zelda is one of my favourite characters in gaming. She's beautiful, wise, powerful, and always the damsel. Huh. That's odd. I swore she was more involved in, the Legend of Zelda? That's weird. I swear I said all that before. And I said that too. What I will be doing in this video is describing Zelda's role within each game and analysing a selection of the series that I have separated into what I will call eras of Princess Zelda. Before we begin, a disclaimer! This is my opinion formed by what I have seen, played, and read. Not all games discussed are ones that I own or played to completion, but I have done my research as thoroughly as possible. If there are any gaps or mistakes, I may eventually make another video addressing them. I will not be covering any material other than the video games. This means I will not be covering the cartoon, or the manga, or comics, because frankly, I don't own or have access to all of them to be able to make any comment. Oh, I should mention, spoilers are abound. We're talking about Zelda's role in the games after all. And now, the final part. I think it's almost poetic that a Zelda video series comes in 3 parts, don't you? Anyways, we're heading into the 2010s now in our final few eras of Princess Zelda. We've seen the damsel in distress, and we've seen the active princess. Where does she go after being Link's companion? Zelda is a student at the Knight Academy, as well as being the daughter of the headmaster. She's childhood friends with Link, and they both have crushes on one another, or at least it's very much implied. Another student, Bruce, is in love with Zelda, but she doesn't like him at all since he bullies Link. Zelda was chosen to play the goddess at the wing ceremony. She sends her Loftwing to wake her sleepyhead of a best friend for some last-minute practice. After pushing him off a ledge, Zelda has to save Link at the last minute as his Loftwing has mysteriously vanished, not heeding Link's calls. Zelda decides that they need to delay the competition and assists Link in finding his Loftwing. Link later wins the competition, and he and Zelda perform the ceremony on top of the goddess statue. Zelda presents Link with the sailcloth. She then pushes him off the statue to complete the ceremony, as he has to land safely using the sailcloth. To celebrate, the two teens go out for a ride in the clouds. As Zelda is about to confess her feelings to Link, or at least, again, it's very much implied, a twister pulls her from the clouds and onto the surface. Zelda's journey is told in the game's credit, though in the game it is known that Link is retracing her footsteps. She awakes in the sealed grounds and is sent on her own separate quest by the old woman, to awaken herself as the mortal reincarnation of the goddess Hylia. Zelda travels to each sacred spring in the Faron and Eldin regions, praying there to purify her body and remember her past life. Near the Earth Temple, in the Eldin region, she is surrounded by monsters and captured. Impa saves her and accompanies her from then on. She sees Link for a split second before Impa shields her from him, reprimanding the young hero for his ineptitude. In the Lanayru province, Zelda travels to the ancient Temple of Time and opens a Gate of Time there. She and Link almost reunite when Girahim, who has been chasing after Zelda, attacks. Impa leaps to Zelda's defense, while Zelda uses her magic to pass the goddess heart onto Link in the chaos. Impa's barrier is destroyed by Girahim, and Link jumps to defend Impa and Zelda. They make their escape through the gate, which is promptly destroyed. In the distant past, after many trials, Zelda and Link finally reunite properly. Zelda reveals all she has learned to Link, that Hylia had orchestrated all the events and knew that her hero would do everything if it meant saving her mortal self. She uses her power to complete the Master Sword's transformation and orders Link to find the Triforce in order to destroy Demise once and for all. She then bids Link goodbye and seals herself in a crystal to protect the seal imprisoning Demise. She asks Link to wake her when Demise is gone. After waking up in the present day, Zelda celebrates with Link, Gruz, and the old woman, but their joy is cut short. Zelda is kidnapped by Girahim and brought back to the past to resurrect Demise. Girahim's ritual is successful and Zelda's soul is absorbed. When Demise is killed by Link, Zelda is restored. She bids farewell to Impa in the past and realises that the old woman is an elderly Impa, who then passes away. After reuniting with her father, Zelda decides to stay on the surface and watch over the Triforce, asking Link if he would like to stay with her. attack in Hyrule's sanctuary, Link meets Princess Zelda, the current ruler of Hyrule. Understanding what must be done due to some dreams she had, she gives Link the Pendant of Courage and sends him to Sahasrahla. After another sage's descendant is captured, a barrier surrounds Hyrule Castle. Link obtains the Master Sword and breaks in. He's too late as Yuga turns Princess Zelda into a painting. Link pursues Yuga into Lorule. Using the paintings of the sages and Zelda, Ganon is released and Yuga fuses with him. Link is nearly done for, but is saved by Princess Hilda at the last minute. She tells him that he must save the sages in order to save Zelda. After the sages are freed, Link is betrayed by Princess Hilda. She reveals that their kingdoms are parallels of one another and explains that her kingdom is crumbling away as they no longer have a Triforce like theirs. She steals Zelda's Triforce and demands Link to hand over his. Link refuses, so Hilda sets Yuga Ganon on him. Yuga Ganon then betrays her and fights Link. Zelda, despite still being in a painting, grants Link the Bow of Light. Yuga Ganon is defeated and Zelda is freed. Zelda empathizes with her Lorulian counterpart on her plight, but tries to explain how it would just ruin Hyrule instead. Hilda refuses to listen until Ravio, revealed to be Link's Lorulian counterpart, talks some sense into her. Hilda and Ravio bid farewell to the Hylians and send them back home. Zelda and Link find themselves in the Sacred Realm and together make a wish upon the Triforce, restoring Lorule's long-lost Triforce, which saves both worlds. I think this is another zero competition situation. A Link Between Worlds is a callback to the princesses of the past. It makes sense since, in Japan, the game is literally called Triforce of the Gods 2, cementing it as a sequel to A Link to the Past, as that was its Japanese title. So, like her retro counterpart, Zelda here is just a dispatcher and a damsel. She has little personality beyond kindness, as seen when she gives Link a family relic for his quest, and her trying to empathise with Hilda, and then using a wish on the Triforce to bring peace to Lorule. She is like Twilight Princess's Zelda, as she is for the most part overshadowed by another princess, while also being the ruler of Hyrule. Hilda has a bigger part in the narrative once Lorule is introduced. She is the princess with the development and interesting plot points, being thought of as an ally before showing her true colours. However, her evil is influenced out of love for her country, showing how she is a parallel of Zelda. Hilda learns the error of her ways and ends up rewarded. Zelda is just kinda there to drive Link into the rest of the narrative. She does have a similar role as well to Ocarina of Time's Zelda by giving him items, as seen obviously by the previously mentioned pendant and the Bow of Light. Zelda in Skyward Sword just secretes personality during all of the shenanigans in Skyloft. Her troll-like behaviour of pushing Link off ledges, her cute, flirty behaviour, and her sassing of Grooves are brilliant. While the opening of the game is very long, it does a good job of building up Zelda as a likeable character, someone who you would want to find and rescue. It also clearly establishes Link and Zelda's relationship. They're clearly old friends, but this is the closest of any of the games they've come to confirming these two as a couple. Yes, they kiss in Adventure of Link and the Oracle games, but that doesn't count. And with Spirit Tracks, yes, they hold hands, but the rest of the game plays them off as friends. In Skyloft, Link and Zelda have a clear chemistry to the point that Link goes through hell to find her and chooses to stay with her instead of returning to the place they once called home. This Zelda's likability lessens slightly when Hylia's plan is revealed, though I can't fully blame this adorable lady. Her past life made all of the decisions for her and Link, so it isn't really her fault since she had no clue about any of this until she woke her past memories. Zelda herself regrets what she had to make Link do, stating that she would have been happy if they just stayed in Skyloft for the rest of their lives, not knowing anything of the surface or their destiny. In terms of her role, Zelda appears to be damseled at the start, but actually ends up going on her own adventure. She does become a damsel on her adventure, but is rescued, though not by Link, and continues her journey instead of returning home with him. It's kind of strange that Zelda is sent on her journey with nothing but fresh clothes, jewellery, and a harp. You'd think a weapon or some magic lessons would be useful. While Zelda follows the time-honoured convention of being trapped in a crystal, it is, for once, of her own doing. Her personal sacrifice is used to keep the world safe from Demise's evil for hundreds, thousands, millions of years, who knows how long it's been. Zelda only truly becomes a damsel when Girahim kidnaps her and takes her to the past. Here Zelda loses her agency as her soul is sucked out of her and used to revive Demise fully, her body tossed to the side. Skyward Sword Zelda seems to me to be a mix of two prior princesses, Minish Cap and Spirit Tracks. I kind of see her as having a Minish Cap style of personality mixed with Spirit Tracks' sense of adventure, just without the uncertainty of her value. The Minish Cap influence can also be seen through Link, as his quest is personal as once more he follows his childhood friend and crush down to the unmapped surface to rescue her from whatever situation she is in. Obviously, this Zelda is completely able to do her own thing, since she isn't a princess like the other incarnations, but she isn't a playable character or Link's companion, and we only see snippets of her journey at the end of the game. Zelda's journey is a point of intrigue, so in a sense, points are deducted. I think some people would have preferred to ditch the dowsing and instead follow Zelda's footsteps in a playable flashback, akin to The Witcher 3, but obviously no one knew about that back then, but thinking back retrospectively, that would have been pretty cool, as people had that idea for Breath of the Wild. We'll get to that. So, it is clear that Zelda in Skyward Sword is the better of the two. I honestly can't say if she's better than the Zelda that came before her, however. In all versions of Hyrule Warriors, including DLC for the original on Wii U and Legends for 3DS, Princess Zelda is playable as herself and her alter egos Sheik and Tetra, along with her tomb form. Princess Zelda and Sheik are playable in the main story mode. Tetra was introduced as a playable character in Legends, but could be used in the Wii U title in the form of DLC. Toon Zelda was introduced in the Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks DLC pack, available for both games, and isn't involved in any story mode. The story mode, known as Legend mode, has Zelda actively fight in her army against the enemy. Zelda has a disturbing dream about a shadow falling over her land. She and Impa resolve to find a hero. Volga and Wizrow then attack Hyrule Castle. The castle is taken and Zelda is nowhere to be found, considered missing. Link and Impa search for Princess Zelda and meet Sheik, who tells them that Zelda is fine but cannot be with them now. The heroes meet a blue-haired sorceress named Lana, and they team up to confront the mastermind of the attack, Sia. Sia, owner of the Triforce of Power, steals the Triforce of Courage and Wisdom from Link and Sheik respectively. She opens up portals across time and space, sending Hyrule into chaos. The heroes then separate into groups to seal up the Gate of Souls that have been opened. Sheik travels with Impa to an area set in the Ocarina of Time period. Impa is suspicious of this new Sheikah, who claims to be from the same tribe as her. The confrontation is interrupted by a fairy, who tells them that Darunia has captured Princess Ruto. They say it all started when Princess Zelda arrived. Sheik devises a plan and they free Darunia from a spell placed on him and set Ruto free. They travel to the Water Temple to find out what has happened to Zelda. She tries to demoralize the army and make them stand down. Impa realizes that this Zelda is an imposter. Under the advice of Ruto, they find the lens of truth. The fake Zelda is Wizrow, who wonders how they saw through him. Sheik reveals that she is in fact Zelda. She apologizes for not telling Impa sooner, and Wizrow escapes. The two women seal up the gate. After all of the other events have occurred in the other eras, Zelda and Link suddenly find that their Triforce pieces have been returned. They go to claim the Master Sword in order to defeat Sia. Zelda commands her army through the trapped temple, fending off the ghost forces and having the other heroes unlock the sealed statues. Link obtains the Master Sword and the heroes go to confront Sia. They are momentarily distracted from their task by Ganondorf's arrival on the field, having been resurrected by all of the portals being open. They push him back and continue their approach to Sia. The army defeats Sia. As Sia passes away, having used up too much of her own life energy, she passes on her piece of the Triforce to Lana. With the help of Link and Zelda, Lana closes the portals between worlds using the Triforce, sending everyone back to where they are supposed to be. However, peace does not remain for long. Ganondorf, with his army, takes the Triforce of Power from Lana and heads to Hyrule Castle. Zelda launches a counterattack, but fails. Ganondorf claims both her and Link's Triforce pieces, and then disappears. Zelda launches an attack on the Gerudo Desert and defeats Ganondorf's generals, Zant and Girahim. Lana, who struggled in the battle, summons their friends from the other time periods: Darunia, Ruto, Midna, Agatha, and Fi. The army returns to Hyrule Field and finds the area taken over by Ganondorf's remaining forces, the castle turned into Ganon's tower. Ganondorf turns into Beast Ganon. Zelda rallies her troops and Link fights Ganon, chipping off his armour. Zelda grants Link the light arrows and Ganon is defeated. Lana, Zelda, and Link reclaim their Triforce pieces and seal Ganon away. The friends disappear as the battle across time is over. Lana charges the heroes with returning the Master Sword. Link initially struggles to return the sword to its darkness-spewing pedestal, but with Zelda's help, the sword seals the darkness away. A new phenomena has occurred as the land of the Wind Waker has been summoned to Hyrule. Zelda intends on going, but Impa sends Link, saying that their place is to protect the castle. Tetra runs to the edge of Windfall Island in shock, wondering what has happened. Link finds Tetra fighting monsters in the Forsaken Fortress and they join forces. The Hylian army forces the Helm Rock King to flee, but Tetra chases after it. She is then captured by the bird and taken to the Gerudo Desert. Lana, who was on her own mission, finds Tetra and they join forces to drive off the Helm Rock King. Link arrives and joins them, closing the Gate of Souls that was in the desert. King Daphnis then appears and directs the heroes to their next goal, the Temple of Souls, where a great darkness was. Tetra joins Link and Lana, resolving to save the world since it was due to someone from her world that had caused everything. Lana saves Sia, who was somehow still alive, from the darkness. The heroes defeat Dark Sia and the Dark Lynx. Sia, with her strength returned, tells them that they must confront Phantom Ganon as he stole her magic and Lana's Triforce. In the combined Wind and Earth temples, the heroes beat Phantom Ganon. Lana gives the Triforce of power to the weakened Sia. The king and Tetra disappear, their part in the fight done. Link and the two sorceresses return to Hyrule Castle, where they are met by Princess Zelda and Impa. This time, Link, Zelda, Lana and Sia use the Triforce to return the land to normal. Lana and Sia return to their post, Zelda and Link wave goodbye. May as well comment on how she fights in the game, since that's the biggest part about it. Princess Zelda canonically wields a rapier, but can also use magic and light arrows in her combos. Her other unlockable weapons include a baton that summons wind gusts and tornadoes, inspired by the Wind Waker, and the Dominion Rod, which allows her to control and summon statues, which was introduced in the Twilight Princess DLC. Sheik wields a harp, which can summon a variety of elements depending on the song played, though its predominant element is lightning. She also uses kunai in her moveset. As Tetra, she wields a cutlass and a pistol that fires water bullets. She does use some magic in her moveset, though significantly less than Princess Zelda. Her bow of light appears during her focus spirit attack. Toon Zelda, like in Spirit Tracks, possesses phantom armor to fight. In the armor, she uses a sword and shield predominantly, but sometimes uses her fists. She can also curl into an iron ball, like a Rekka Phantom. Outside of the armor, during some combos, Zelda uses magic to create explosions of light. Her focus spirit ends with two rats circling her, and due to her fear, Zelda ejects herself from the armor, creating a huge explosion of light, killing the rats and surrounding enemies. Impa, I hate you for stopping Zelda from coming along for the Wind Waker scenario. This Princess Zelda is clearly 100% capable of fighting for herself, ruling her kingdom, commanding an army, and is a decent tactician. I guess it's just plain Zelda conventions and such that lead to her having to rely on Link for strength in the narrative. And I guess they need a wielder of the Triforce of Courage. The whole game is a love letter to the series after all. Also, the plot just wouldn't work without Sia thirsting over Link, although I suppose they could find another reason for why she attacks everyone. I definitely think Sheik was there in some sense for fan service, as I just don't get why Zelda had to disguise herself, as it ended up not working out well for the heroes, as seen when Wizrow impersonates her, and it just lowered the morale of her remaining army, knowing that she was missing and potentially in danger. I guess the strength of her disguise was that she was able to slip away from the enemy and didn't get captured by Sia's generals. Even when Zelda reveals herself to the enemy, nothing happens to her. While Ganondorf does win for a time, she becomes a hero and saviour, just like Link. Clearly though, in Hyrule Warriors, Zelda is not bound by gender roles and the societal expectations of a princess. Ironically, I have heard around the mill that Zelda is actually a queen in the Japanese version. Physically, Tetra is quite the badass. She jumps into combat and works hard to help the others in solving the current crisis. I am certain, however, that her kidnapping by the Hammerrock King was definitely meant to be a callback to the Wind Waker, as it doesn't appear to be done for any nefarious plot. As soon as she's dropped off, Tetra fights her way out, but calls for help when the bird starts to terrorise her again. The plus with her being playable is that you can just use her to beat that sodding bird, which of course I did. As a character, Tetra thankfully is back to her more Wind Waker quality, instead of her Phantom Hourglass one. Phantom Zelda is definitely fun to play as, and it's cool to be able to properly play as her considering she was limited to lines and taps of the screen in Spirit Tracks. I can't say much more on her since she sadly had no story relevance in the game. The Zelda in this game is certainly wise and powerful, but to me she does lack a distinct personality, which is a shame. I certainly would rate this Zelda quite highly since she hadn't been properly playable since the days of the CDI games. And I feel terrible for saying that. And now a little extra! 2019's Cadence of Hyrule Crypt of the Necrodancer has Princess Zelda as one of the playable characters. I considered adding this to this section, with Zelda being a fighter and all, but honestly there's not loads about it online and I haven't personally played it. Since it's a game made by indie developers, I'd say go support the game and we'll see what it's about. As I said, if I do a future video, hey! I might have finally played the game so I can cover it. Sheik and Zelda joined Smash Bros. In the second title of the series and remained in the series ever since. Zelda's appearance in this game was based on her design from Ocarina of Time, and gave players two characters in one, as Zelda could transform into Sheik. As herself, Zelda is slow but powerful, fighting with light magic and some small kicks. Her special attacks are inspired by the magic spells granted to Link by the Great Fairies. Nehru's Love encases Zelda in a blue diamond which reflects attacks and projectiles. It also causes damage to opponents as shards of the crystal spin around Zelda. Farore's Wind teleports Zelda across the stage, often upwards but can also be done in an inputted direction. Din's Fire is a projectile-based explosion magic with great range. As Sheik, Zelda becomes faster but weaker, focusing on physical combat. Her special attacks involve her throwing long thin needles and whipping a chain. The chain can electrocute opponents if they make contact with the tip. Her Vanish ability is inspired by her ability to disappear in Ocarina of Time using Deku Nuts to flashbang opponents. It works as a teleport move, and the explosions can cause damage. In Brawl, Zelda's design is taken from Twilight Princess, while Sheik uses an unused design from Twilight Princess also. From the menu, a player can select which form they start as, unlike Melee, where you start as Zelda by default. Her final smash as both Sheik and Zelda is the Light Arrow, its design again taken from Twilight Princess. Zelda's moveset had small adjustments such as Din's Fire having an upgrade in power and looking bigger, and as Sheik using the chain as a tether recovery. Zelda is introduced in the opening of Subspace Emissary. She and Peach are watching a friendly match between Mario and Kirby, but the festivities end when the stadium is attacked by the Pyramid. After fending them off, a subspace bomb is dropped. While Kirby is distracted by Mario being sent flying via a cannonball, Zelda and Peach are kidnapped by P.D. Piranha. From here, Zelda follows one of two storylines. In one, Zelda is saved by Kirby and they escape the stadium and the encroaching subspace on his warp star. They are pursued by the Halberd and are forced to land, but are soon blown off by a downed Arwing. She fights hordes of monsters with Kirby. Kirby then runs off, leaving her behind. Bowser surprise attacks Zelda and turns her into a trophy, with the Shadow Bugs creating a false copy of her. The trophy is taken to the Halberd, while the false Zelda fights Mario and Pit, after attempting to turn Link and Yoshi into trophies with a dark cannon, leading to some conflict between the heroes. If Zelda is not saved by Kirby, she is trapped under her cage. Wario turns her into a trophy and escapes the stadium with her. King Dedede attacks Wario and takes his trophy collection for his own. Link spots Zelda in the cart when Dedede attempts to steal Mario and Pit's trophies. The cart is damaged by Pit's arrow and the heroes track Dedede. King Dedede places a brooch on Zelda, but Bowser storms the castle and takes Zelda's trophy. As the heroes confront him, the brooch falls off Zelda's trophy. Bowser escapes the heroes in his clown car, and Zelda is taken to the Hellbird. These storylines converge at this point and play out the same. Peach and Zelda's trophies are discovered by Lucario, Meta Knight, and Snake. Shadow bugs create false copies of the princesses that are promptly defeated. The princesses are revived and are told by Snake to stay put in the room. Zelda transforms into Sheik and leads Peach to the exterior of the ship. Fox attacks the Hellbird and nearly guns down Peach on the deck. In response, Sheik teleports on top of Fox's R-Wing and forces him to eject. They fall onto the deck and begin to fight, but are interrupted by Peach, who offers them both tea. Thus, the conflict ends. Sheik, along with Peach, Fox, Lucario, Snake, and Falco, fight Duon and free Mr. Game & Watch. Sometime after this, she becomes Zelda again. All of the fighters, not in trophy form, go to confront Taboo, but they are transformed into trophies after a devastating attack. It is up to the player to collect Zelda's trophy as Kirby, who had accidentally revived himself by eating one of King Dedede's brooches. When revived, Zelda and Link revive Ganondorf and point out what has happened. They team up and head into the Great Maze. The Smash Bros. Fighters then defeat Taboo and everything returns to normal. Sheik and Zelda become separate characters. With this separation, both characters obtain a new move. Zelda can summon a phantom to slash enemies, inspired by her appearance in Spirit Tracks. Sheik obtains the Burst Grenade, replacing her chain, and Bouncing Fish, which can be used as a dodge or a barrage of kicks if landed. The fourth Smash title also introduced customizable special moves, which I will name, but won't go into detail on the mechanics, though know that they are similar to the normal moves but with different effects like increased speed or damage, but less reach. Zelda obtains Nehru's Rejection, Nehru's Passion, Din's Flare, Din's Blaze, Faror's Squall, Faror's Windfall, Phantom Breaker, and Phantom Strike. Sheik obtains Gale, Abyss, Penetrating Needles, Paralyzing Needles, Gravity Grenade, Skimming Grenade, Jellyfish, and Pisces.
Colors weave into a spire of flame, distant sparks call to a past still unnamed.
In Ultimate, Zelda's design is inspired by A Link to the Past and A Link Between Worlds. While her moveset is relatively the same, her animations are completely different, bringing a lighter, elegant, and cute edge to how she moves. Zelda's new Final Smash seals enemies using the Triforce of Wisdom. Sheik's design is taken from the Stealth set from Breath of the Wild. Sheik uses Sheikah Dance as her Final Smash, where she attacks with her knife as well as hands and kicks. Both Zelda and Sheik are unlockable characters. In World of Light, the game's story mode, though it's not much of a story, being honest, I'm just saying, Zelda was one of the fighters who went to confront Galeem, but was taken out and used to create puppet fighters. She is saved by Kirby, like other fighters, and continues the fight against Galeem and Darkon. I guess you can say Smash is another spin-off series that shows Zelda as a powerful and capable fighter. Funny, isn't it? Zelda can only be this way in spin-off titles or games that weren't made directly by Nintendo. I have a lot of love for Zelda in Smash. She's usually my go-to fighter. Apart from in Melee, for some reason I struggle to handle her there. I honestly don't care about the whole tier thing since Smash is just about fun for me. Brawl was actually my proper introduction to the series proper. Now, we did own some Zelda games before then, but I didn't feel much drive to play them when I was a kid. It was due to Brawl that I got my second-hand copy of Twilight Princess, and my obsession went skyrocketing from there. Zelda's role in Brawl's story mode is so-so. On the one hand, like everyone else, she's a great fighter. On the other, she's a damsel that has to be saved. It's kinda ironic that they paired the Twilight Princess design with Princess Peach. Zelda has always, in my mind, been a better character role-wise in her games, so it's funny that they pretty much give her and Peach the same storyline. World of Light, while certainly being the lesser story mode, at least evens things out as Zelda is on the same playing field as all of the other fighters, waiting for Kirby to save them. Zelda in Smash Bros. Is hard to place as it's a completely different beast. It does build on the implications of Zelda's power within her own games, especially since she wasn't seen fighting in true Nintendo properties by the release of Melee. maybe I am soft on Smash because it reintroduced me to a series that I've loved now for many years. Oh well.
Where are you taking us? Into the wild.
Our final era of Princess Zelda. Is she the same as before? Has the experimenting led to anything new? Zelda is the Princess of Hyrule and an aspiring scholar who enjoys researching ancient technology, flora, fauna, and the past. Zelda remains unable to awaken the powers of the female members of the royal line. She feels that part of this failure is due to her mother dying when she was 6, as she lost her teacher before she was able to start her training properly. Her father disapproves of her obsessions as he believes she should focus her time solely on her spiritual awakening. She travels Hyrule a lot and is the leader of the champions of Hyrule. Zelda's research notes talk about the discovery of the Sheikah Slate, her assisting the champions in mastering the controls of the divine beasts, and the discovery of many ancient Sheikah structures. Zelda is jealous of Link as she sees him as a living reminder of her failures, as he had fulfilled his destiny, since he could wield the Master Sword and could do his part, seemingly with ease. She often lashed out at him in anger. The Gerudo champion, Urbosa, who acts as a mother figure to Zelda, explains to Link in one flashback.
She gets frustrated every time she looks up and sees you carrying that sword on your back. It makes her feel like a failure when it comes to her own destiny. She's put in more than enough time. Ever since she was a young girl, she's gone through rigorous daily routines to show her dedication. She once passed out in the freezing waters trying to access this sealing power. And she has nothing to show for it.
After saving her from a Yiga assassin, Zelda's attitude changes towards Link. She opens up to him more, showing her interest and sharing her disappointment. And her disappointment is valid. More signs appear that the calamity approaches, and she had been training for 10 years. Zelda's diary shows that she believed the Silent Link despised her for not having her power, but eventually, after they have a heart-to-heart, she realizes that his silence is due to the pressure that he is under as the chosen hero, feeling he has to calmly and stoically bear any burden. On her 17th birthday, Zelda goes to the Spring of Wisdom to pray one last time. After another failure at awakening her power, Calamity Ganon awakens and devastates Hyrule Castle. The champions are killed in their divine beasts, Link and Zelda fail in their task, and the pair escape, barely with their lives. Zelda's powers awaken by chance when she protects Link from a guardian when he is mortally wounded. She orders 2 Sheikah warriors to take Link to the Shrine of Resurrection and heads to the castle, using her new powers to seal herself and Calamity Ganon. 100 years later, Zelda's voice calls Link from his slumber. She asks him to save Hyrule. Throughout your quest, Zelda continues to hold back Calamity Ganon in the castle. Zelda speaks to Link again once he regains all his relevant memories and frees the divine beasts, and by proxy the champion's souls, telling him that it is time to defeat Ganon. Against Beast Ganon in Hyrule Field, Zelda, who is still inside the Calamity, bestows Link the Bow of Light. When Ganon is defeated, Zelda erupts from his form and seals him away with her overwhelming power. Zelda hasn't aged and has witnessed all of the events occurring in the game. She asks Link if he truly remembers her, and the credits roll. After the credits, Link and Zelda are shown travelling together, heading to Zora's domain to investigate an incident. After the discovery of an egg-shaped mini-guardian, Zelda decides that they should bring it to the Royal Ancient Tech Lab. Robbie and Pura decode some of its data, revealing the future that the Guardian was from. Zelda and Link go to Zora's domain, Death Mountain, Rito Village, and the Gerudo Desert to assemble the champions, picking Mipha, Princess of the Zora, Daruk, a Goron lord and hero, Revali, a Rito warrior, and Urbosa, chief of the Gerudo. Zelda dedicates her time to calibrating the divine beasts for each pilot. In Hyrule Castle Town, during a Yiga ambush, Zelda is almost assassinated by Suga, the Yiga second in command. King Rome proclaims that they need to find a knight who can wield the Master Sword. Zelda, Link, and the champions break open a pathway through the monsters into Great Hyrule Forest. Zelda and Link are overwhelmed by hollows, dark replicas of the champions, summoned by Astor, a dark sorcerer. Link claims the Master Sword and drives back the evil in the area. The Deku Tree affirms that Link is the hero that they were looking for, and tells Zelda to have faith. Zelda worries about whether she will be ready in time. The small guardian, which has been travelling with them so far, plays Zelda's lullaby, which almost jogs Zelda's memory. The ceremony shown in Breath of the Wild takes place with Link, Mipha, Urbosa, Daruk and Revali officially named champions. Rome and Zelda argue about her focus on relics. Zelda gifts her father a relic that she and her mother found years ago, and the king drops the argument and allows her to continue, for now. After the champions activate several Sheikah towers, Pyrrha presents Zelda their teleportation ability. Zelda is amazed and gives her support for more research, but worries about her own ability again. It is decoded that the calamity will rise on Zelda's 17th birthday. Her father sends her to train at the Spring of Courage in hopes of getting results. There, she, Link, and Impa are attacked by monsters. With her knowledge of relics in the area, they are able to escape. Despite her success in helping Link and Impa escape with her, she still doubts her worth. On her 17th birthday, Zelda prepares to travel to the Spring of Wisdom. Robbie and Pyrrha send the small guardian to Zelda as they are captured. The calamity arrives sooner than expected and begins to possess the guardians. King Rome saves Zelda and Link from the guardian, and they escape the castle, thinking the king perished. Impa, using the Sheikah Slate, shows Zelda that Ganon has attacked the divine beasts, causing her further despair. Her tears land on the Guardian and new time portals open, the group realising that there is still a chance. The champions are saved and Zelda explains what occurred. They go to Akala's citadel and bolster its defences. Then they head to Fort Hateno. Link is almost defeated by all of the Blights, but Zelda's power finally awakens, and Pyrrha shuts down the Guardians. Zelda assumes command of Hyrule's armies. Master Koga joins her forces to avenge his fellow Yiga who were killed by Astor. Her army heads to the Great Plateau and she finds her father alive and well. The relic she gave him ended up being a shield that saved his life, and they reconcile. Zelda's army heads to reclaim Hyrule Castle. Zelda and Link defeat Astor and he is consumed by Harbinger Ganon, manifesting into a humanoid Calamity Ganon. He takes over the Small Guardian. The Small Guardian is then critically damaged in the confrontation with the heroes. As Zelda cries over it, it plays her lullaby again. Zelda at long last remembers the Guardian. Terrako was Zelda's playmate as a young girl, found by her and her mother. It helped her with her grief over her mother's death, but it was confiscated by Rome, who thought it was a toy that was distracting her. The heroes are unable to harm Calamity Ganon as Zelda struggles to hold back its dark power. Terrako reactivates and self-destructs, breaking Ganon's shield. Link and Zelda seal away the calamity, and the day is saved. In the end, the era of the Wild, Zelda, is a combination of those who came before her. She's strong and powerful, assisting Link in his final battles. She holds the vulnerability of Ocarina's child Zelda through her fears about her inability to use her powers, but it's expanded on in much more detail. She has a strong character foundation, almost like Spirit Tracks, though it is limited to the memories, so we don't see enough of her, or the other characters honestly. She has clear interests beyond Hyrule in saving it, through her passion for ancient Sheikah technology and other scholarly pursuits like analysing the effects of certain food and trying to cultivate rare flowers. However, in Breath of the Wild, Zelda remains the end goal, and in some sense, the damsel to save. She's the one setting you on the adventure, calling for you to finally come and help her. She's held back the calamity for years, yet without a hero she can't seal him? A shame since she's shown to be very powerful. She took out several guardians at once when her power finally woke, and when she did seal Ganon, it looked like an explosion. She doesn't look like a girl running out of power as is claimed. Zelda openly travels through her kingdom, however, she is always chaperoned by Link, the champions, or armed guards, since she is shown and told that she cannot protect herself. Maybe give her an actual weapon? While being damseled and still needing Link to save her, in spite of her strength, this Zelda is again a strong example of a Princess Zelda, as she pushed past her struggles and put the safety of her people first, even if it meant sacrificing herself. I find Zelda's position strange though. Zelda isn't the only royal on the scene, and unlike prior titles, the other female royals aren't pushovers. Mipha is the Zora princess. She's an expert with a trident, has healing abilities, and is one of the 4 champions. Urbosa is the chief of the Gerudo, their queen and their champion. She has lightning summoning magic, is confident, and killer with a sword and shield. Zelda is surrounded by other strong royal ladies, yet she's supposed to just sit to one side and let everyone else do the hard work? Is it because she's only meant to be the hero's goddess representative, a helper and not the hero herself? It does seem very unfair that her role limits her so much, Even Zelda hopes that she can contribute wherever she can, predominantly through her research on ancient technology, but she's told to stop running away from her duty. Her limitation in society is clear, as the highest authority in the land, her father and king, demand she stay in line despite her inability to summon her power. Age of Calamity is a contentious point. While Zelda is again protected and told she is unable to fight, she's a playable character. She fights effectively and creatively with the Sheikah Slate, and once her powers are awoken, she's a force to be reckoned with. Granted, the Muso style would overplay the effectiveness of everyone's power, as all player characters are a one-man army in themselves. I do love what was done in Age of Calamity with Zelda, and what was a role that was limiting to her. Zelda is still the one with the sealing powers, yet she takes charge of her army, managing her grief and being inspirational to her troops, and, against all odds, with the help of a fantastical time-travelling robot, is able to save her land as a leader and hero. In this game, she is more so the main character and star of the show, not Link. Ironic how this game isn't called The Legend of Zelda, yet there she is front and centre. Despite being off-canon, the game does well in expanding what was only cliff notes in the original Breath of the Wild. Here we see the era of Wild Zelda properly, and her character is great. The biggest criticisms with this Zelda is that many consider her whiny, and in Breath of the Wild, just a damsel. Zelda's whininess, in a sense, is valid for someone placed in her position, with everyone's hopes pushed on her to the point that she cannot even have a positive relationship with her own father. All of Hyrule expects everything from her, and she, of course, cannot deliver what they are after. I doubt her critics would be able to say that they wouldn't be whiny or bitchy if put in her position. I do agree that her characterization is limited in Breath of the Wild, since she is barely seen, and is just the damsel needing to be assisted and saved. When given the chance to be seen in Age of Calamity, to see her interact with more characters, this Zelda is a better character. I cannot say in the end how this Zelda stands up against the others though. Perhaps if I was to rank them, it would look like this. Don't judge. By the way, the Ultimate Zelda just represents the Smash series as a whole. It was a little hard to work it all out since a lot of the Zeldas are so similar. In a sense, I would say Princess Zelda peaked in Spirit Tracks as a character and in her role, but Skyward Sword and the era of the Wild Zelda come close in personality, while Hyrule Warriors is close in strength. Yes, I know I praised the CDI games for their Zelda, but I could not put her any higher than she is here. Minish Cap Zelda, while sweet, doesn't add all that much to her story apart from in the prologue and the ending, thus she has to be in the B tier, despite her being an excellent example of personality. With all of the C Zeldas, they were all very much the same, completely underwhelming, and simply the damsel in their story for the most part. Yes, Zelda's adventure is a bit of an outlier here, but she simply just didn't do it for me. All of the D-tier Zeldas were resoundingly disappointing. The best of the bunch, I would have to admit, would be the Adventure of Link Zelda, but because she's barely involved in the story of the actual game, while you're playing it, I couldn't score her any higher. With Smash Zelda, I'm sure people would think that I'm some evil creature for putting her in the B tier, but that's because the storylines that she's involved in Brawl seem to revolve around the damsel in distress trope, and linking Zelda and putting her in the same category as Princess Peach is never the best thing, as they are completely different characters. And then in all of the other games, she's a fighter, but not much else. She only started to get personality in her movements more in Smash Ultimate, which is the most recent game, which is saying a lot. Even now I'm not entirely satisfied with the placement of Hyrule Warriors Zelda. I still think giving her S tier is me being a bit too generous, in the fact that she was the first properly playable Zelda since the CDI games, in a Zelda-themed game, not a crossover title. As you have obviously noticed, I separated Breath of the Wild and Age of Calamity Zeldas, despite the fact that they are the same person, but it's purely because she's used far better in Age of Calamity with, as I've said in the just gone through discussion point, she has so much more depth with her being able to interact with far more characters and being able to see presently and being seen as the story progresses instead of just in limited flashbacks. Twilight Princess, I gave her an A tier purely because she was very similar to the Wind Waker Zelda, but with a more elegant edge. And I very much like the Wind Waker Zelda. She's excellent. She's awesome apart from the whole Damsel moment, which is her entire downfall, so I couldn't feasibly make her an S tier because I still found there to be problems within her character role. Princess Zelda is a prime example of how female characters in video games have changed and remained the same. Zelda has developed as a character, but has the most agency when she is not limited by the plot of hero saves princess and her kingdom. At face value, certain incarnations of Zelda are certainly the basic princess archetype, while others appear more proactive than they actually are in game. We never visually see the trials of the early Zeldas, nor do we see Zelda fight Ganon in Breath of the Wild for 100 years, or Zelda hide as Sheik for 7 years in Ocarina of Time. Despite having the series named after her, Zelda's character, at best, plays second fiddle to the battles between the player and whatever evil they face. While we don't know where her journey ends for the Era of the Wild, we can only hope that she continues to strengthen in both character and involvement. Maybe one day she'll be properly playable in a mainline title. It is The Legend of Zelda after all. For now, our journey with the princess ends. Thank you all for watching this series on Princess Zelda. I hope you enjoy it, and I do have plans in the future to cover other characters. Maybe in this series I've actually hinted on who my next topic is. You tell me. But thank you very much for your time. Like, subscribe, comment, do whatever. See you next time. I'm out.